I'm stoked, guys. Like seriously, I think a lot of folks know us, Rob, from the old days, and 7 or so years together at Malauzai, and had a blast. And just so everybody knows, Rob was not only really good to me, but heck of a mentor and somebody I learned a ton from. Too many trips to count together, and presentations and building things. And I actually, Rob, I was thinking this morning about photo bill pay, picture pay. And I sat in a small room, me and Rob, and we had a sticker on the wall and a magic marker and drawing out and erasing what the screen should look like, right? So an innovator from way back, but I want to give you a chance, man, if you would. I mean, I'm thinking all the way back to when you were at Union and at Schwab, and would you kind of give a little background and tell your story? I mean, you've been at it rocking and rolling on the bleeding edge, years ahead of the rest of us for a long time.
Yeah, another kind of FinTech cowboy.
There you go.
No, a corporate cowboy. That's what I was always. So, imagine so I started at Charles Schwab, and I was a bit of a cowboy for Schwab, there were a lot of straight-laced people, and that wasn't necessarily me. But they were embracing PCs, personal computers, and starting to use them in the business. And I knew a lot about that. And so it started back then. But no, I love what y'all are doing, and it's fun to, as a fellow person who lives in Central Texas, it's cool to support efforts like this. So I'm excited. Yeah, and yes, Tanner, we go way back. The one thing you didn't mention, the most important, is we
Uh-oh.
sold together. We closed revenue. Um,
Yes,
and isn't that a beautiful thing, right?
it
So
is.
um, I won't say we taught you how to do that. It surely wasn't me if we did teach you anything. Those aren't, I was always the person, like right around when they're about to sign. I sold software for probably 2 years, internet banking. And they'd be just signing, and I'd pull the contract back and I'd be like, I have five more ideas. Senior people would be just like, shut your mouth and sign the freaking contract.
That's right.
Just stop coming up with that. I was like, you're destined for product development, aren't you? Okay. So
That's
anyway, but yeah, half my career, the Schwabs, the other banks, Union Bank of California, and then software company like digital banking platforms. I was writing about this recently. What I think of now is like the second big wave of information technology was digitization and self-service, and uh, it was fun to participate in that, going way back to Schwab before everybody was doing it, before the internet. Yes, I'm dating myself. But now it's what's going on is the third wave. This is exciting. Artificial intelligence is going to really kind of fundamentally change a financial institution's productivity
Yep.
and their profits. It's going to transform it. And those that embrace it are going to go through that, and those that don't won't. Somebody accused me recently. They're like, you said that around digital. And I was like, well, yes, but this time I really mean it.
That's good.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask you a question. So I want to dive into the AI side big time, Rob, but I'm thinking about you saw it probably better than anybody, sort of from I mean, weren't you playing in like Firethorn, like the first online or mobile website of the world? I mean, going way back. So you saw the transition, I mean, the birth of online and then the birth of mobile and the transition between the two and sort of I feel like it was a multi-generational feature fight, right? It was like, let's just keep enhancing and adding things. And I mean, internet banking got really big, and then mobile started out small and light and got comparably almost mirrored big. And a lot of people are talking, of recent years about super apps. And then if you look at kind of the fintech, the challengey space, the direct to consumer space, the Chimes and others, Robinhood or Rocket Mortgage, very point solution, right? Like fractured user journey experiences that they're trying to solve for. I really want to know what you think in terms of, did the super app, at least in banking, lose, right? I mean, is it different experiences? Do we add more features? I mean, on the traditional digital side of the world versus people having a dozen apps and using best of breed and where they're at. I mean, is the war over is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's funny to think about Firethorn. They were the first mobile app. They were pre-installed on phones before we had thinking about an Apple App Store, and they used OFX to go live. And yes, we did that. We put the first bank into a mobile app. It was pretty cool. That was a long time ago. But yeah, highly commoditized. I track features in digital banking. I'm a geek. My spreadsheet is over 600 items long. So it's a massive amount of scope that imagine if you tried to come into that market right now. But here's what's going on. It's going to be disintermediated by not necessarily AI. In this case, we're talking about an application of AI. AI is a big topic. But the way conversational banking will revolutionize and it's not even started. And I was passionate about this years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not been realized. Everything we've done with conversation techniques is on the outside, but somebody's going to crack the inside. And it's already starting to happen. And we're seeing wedge apps that are, even theoretically conversational banking that can give you your balance, help you pay a bill, which all exists today. Start eating away at the edges. I can do that without displacing the whole digital platform. But yes, the digital platforms are too highly commoditized. Never be able to compete with them directly, but you can start eating away as the world changes in the next 5 years, and I believe it will. Then you will see another level of disintermediation. But could you imagine trying to build digital banking from scratch right now? It'd take you 2.5 years. It's a huge amount of functionality. So they have a huge legacy edge, but it's also, well, let's get back to AI. Yeah. There's 125 vendors that I'm tracking that are behind about 200 case studies. Do you know not one of the digital banking platforms is in there with a case study?
Classic.
I mean, I'm for real, right? Like I'd put them in there if one of them they could have case study. They're doing AI, but they're not necessarily promoting it through a partner or whatever. So that's an example. AI is going to start to eat their lunch, and they better be ready. And the cores as well, right? The cores we saw got disintermediated a lot by digital, and I think AI is another one. And I just find a conspicuous absence of the cores and the digital players, who I now think of as legacy.
Yes, I love it. So I want you to talk a little bit about what you're doing. So I got to read through a lot of the research and the case studies you're talking about that you sent me. And I mean, my wheels were spinning, right? I mean, well into the night, staring at the ceiling going, well, I wonder, it's interesting times. And, Dad and I have been talking about this a lot, and we're working a lot internally on our side. For a couple of few years now, our sort of AI ethos has been, I don't freaking know, but it's going to be driven by data. And so from the data company side for us, we sit and look at it and say, there's big, massive public data sets, right? That will power the bulk of the world. That probably drives the automation, the efficiency style tools, but the real insights driven, experience driven things, anybody who's got strategic IP data, your own data that nobody else has, you could power things for competitive advantage, right? And I obviously think about that with banks. I mean, you've got clearly more data on your customers than anybody else probably would. And being in a good place with your data estate is a hell of a nice stepping stone to whatever AI future might look like, right? So we've been working on that direction on our side for quite a while. And now we're starting to put a number of applications in place and different projects on the AI side that are shockingly easy to pull off. Granted, we have really nice, clean, normalized, structured data because that's what we do around here. And we've been thinking in this direction for a while, so the application's easy. But that's kind of been where been at. And now I'm just kind of beginning to get to where you are, Rob, on what are the applications in the future, but specifically, what's the big picture, the transformation look like? I'd love to get your thoughts.
It's a transformation of 1,000 cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Death by 1,000 cuts. This is life by 1,000 cuts. It's not, AI is not monolithic. What it turned out to be is, like, I just did a story on Bank of New York, and they have applied AI in 20 different parts of their organization. And what's interesting though is there's a singular benefit, which is productivity gains. That's what I want to talk to you all about is
Yeah.
we got to start tracking these banks and seeing how they're doing better, because the ones that are starting to outperform from a productivity perspective, we have to figure out how to measure that, right?
Yep.
Best. But I have a bunch of ways that all these point solutions are contributing. And then overall, those are going to be the FIs that survive. So data is critical though. You know, if you start at the building blocks, what's neat about this revolution, this wave, it deals with unstructured data. And the bank has massive amounts of structured data, but in hundreds of different applications. So it'll have the ability to bring all that together. And that's, as we know, integration of data sources has traditionally been a challenge. So that's
The challenge. That's an understatement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now I was proud. Like at Malauzai, we had 145 interfaces, but why did we need so many interfaces? People are like, doesn't just all the databases just talk to each other? And I'm like, this is not NCIS, I don't know how they do that on TV, but it doesn't happen in the real world, Anyway.
Yeah, in the real world, the Secret Service don't talk to the cops, right?
That's right. Well, and bank A doesn't talk to core, and core B doesn't talk to core C, and you got to integrate them. They don't want to integrate, but you do it anyway. Anyway, so data critically important, like you said, Tanner, and then the building blocks. Here's the deal: the financial institutions need to go out and assess where they can apply AI. In the research, let's go back to the research. There are 67 different AI applications that I've found in the case studies. So 200 case studies, some are, multiples, but that's a lot. 15 different departments in a financial institution. I track the department if it's an internal app. 15 different departments. It's being used to transform an organization. So what we're talking about, go out and come up with an aggressive plan to start implementing the AI and seek lofty productivity gains, 30% in 5 years, because others are already achieving it. There's stories out there, the bigger FIs, Bank of New York as an example, BNY, some fintechs like Klarna, we read a lot about them in Europe and now in the US, they're already realizing these benefits of gaining productivity and gaining growth at the same time.
Hey, Rob, quick question, man. You said that the increased productivity 30% in 5 years. Is that your metric that you came up with, or is that their target? Or
no, that's my made up metric, that they need to have an aggressive target. This isn't about a 5-10% gain. This is about a 30 to 50% gain. If you look at Klarna as an example, they cut their costs by 25% in 18 months and they grew by 30%.
Yep.
So that's what I'm talking about, right? Like they cut costs and they grew. And they used AI throughout the organization. So there you go back to your 1,000 cuts.
Rob, you gotta take note, man. He is taking notes right now. And we talked earlier about, I bet we have 150 FinTech Cowboys shows, and I have never seen him take a note before. So that's either really good or really bad. Yeah.
I look over here while I'm writing my notes. This is good,
Take
man.
notes, man. So okay, keep going. This is super cool.
So anyway, the call to action here, guys, is these smaller financial institutions need to go out and do an assessment. They need a project plan. They need to start implementing. It's not monolithic. Now here, one thing we didn't talk about, vendors, the terrible vendors. What we know is every financial institution is beholden to vendors. When I was at Union Bank, we built lots of stuff. We built our own digital banking. We had our own bill pay. Oh my gosh, that was crazy, but we did. And they still do all sorts of stuff. New account open. We built our own core, but we still had hundreds of store-bought, off-the-shelf applications. A financial institution under 25 billion, it's 100% store-bought, right? Pretty much.
Yeah,
right? I mean, they may do some custom development, but there's like 5 of those organizations. And
maybe. Yeah.
Tanner tried to sell to him at one point.
I did.
It's
I
like,
did.
Rob, can we do development tools? It's like, sure, tell them anything. No, never say that. Anyway, so go out to the vendors. A lot of this exercise is going out to your vendors, your strategic 25, and finding out what's in their roadmap that is AI. They all have AI in their roadmaps. And then we'll materialize your strategic plan because you're beholden to your vendors. Now, you can pile on new vendors. We built mobile banking. We piled, there's vendors that can wedge in. But a lot of this is your current vendors, the incumbents, and they're all working on AI. So go out, ask them what they're doing, start implementing this stuff, pick lofty goals, but manage it as a mega project. That's my call to action to the boards that I'm talking to. The research told me that, oh my gosh, I was afraid of the robot. And I thought the robot was coming because everybody said 5 years and they're going to take over. I've learned that we're very far away from that. In fact, I struggled to find applications, hence searching for AI. It took a while to find case studies. You know how it goes. I'd go to the vendor. You're talking about AI. Show me like where. Well, blah blah blah. Do you have a case study? No, I don't. Nobody's in production. No, they're not. It's like, well, okay, move on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hey, do you have a name for those? We call them like turkeys or something.
they're turkeys. Yes.
I love it.
And then 2 of them, if 2 turkeys get a partnership together, they're an upside down turkey.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. So Rob forever has been actually the biggest proponent I've ever seen of live product to where, I mean, we'd have something back in the day that is in our next release, which is 2 days from now. And I'm like, this is a critical client meeting. They're coming into the shop. Can I please tell these guys? And he's like, I will fire you. No, like we do not talk about anything until it's ready and live, and I think in today's world, more important than ever of what is actually real. I want to research and understand, and I'd love to hear about what's being worked on, but not in any strategic planning style thinking, right? You can't bank on anything being real. And I think we've, to your point, Rob, sometimes the vendor landscape has been a little less than truthful, once or twice. So yeah,
No,
we need
come
to
on. I don't know. How could you say such things? Every day they're less. But look, that's the cool thing is if it's in production, there's no lying. Somebody asked me, they said that you showed me a case study. That's not AI. That technology. And I was like, you know what? Like I talked to that financial institution, pretty good sized bank, and I talked to their vendor all at the same time. They thought it was AI. Like, who am I to say that it's not AI? I mean, but the financial institution bought it and they're claiming it. I mean, I don't know whatever. But it's live and it's gaining productivity. It's doing some good, right? About 25% of the case studies have quantifiable data that I've been able to mine, and that's pretty good. That also means the vendors are being disciplined. They're reporting their case studies with good data. And
okay, so here's a great question. All right, so let's say we're one of the below $25 billion banks, and we go by everything from our vendors, our marketplace vendors, right? And then we these guys ask these questions, and we find out, okay, 80% of our vendors actually have done this. They've measured the productivity changes, and it's cut their costs by 25%. Okay, since I'm not really the owner of the products, should I ask for a piece of that 25%? I mean, how does the banker win?
Yes. I think that overall, and look, 25%, these are lofty goals, and
yeah,
they're done in individual areas. And what we're hoping is that collectively that this, adds up. It did for Klarna in one case study,
So let me go on a limb here. Let's pretend that everybody actually does achieve this because we're pretty good. We might show them how to do this, right? And help these vendors achieve these things that we're talking about. And if the banker says, I got an idea, I'm going to hire Crockett, the consulting company that Dave has here, my dog Crockett, and Crockett company is going to come in here and waste all your money and probably cost that vendor back that 25%. And it'll be like, it didn't really wash out for us. is there a better way than what we've been doing business with vendors as bankers? So the banker can actually help the vendor keep these costs down and appreciate some of that cost reduction onto the bank rather than blow it on people that probably aren't going to be any better at finding things other than increasing costs. Am I on the right path?
Are you asking if we should not do an RFP for AI?
I was actually trying to get him to say that.
I like it.
No, well, first of all, these savings I talk about are within the financial institution, right? The vendors are making money, selling their software, doing all their stuff, and that's good, and a lot of what we're trying to do is figure out how to hook them up. Like when I work with a financial institution and we say you need a compliance, piece of AI, and they're like, well, what are the vendors? We can kind of make that connection, separate topic. But I think that this is an overall, 10 years from now, we're going to look at this and the whole industry is going to have been transformed productivity wise by the application of AI. And that's going to have happened to anybody still surviving. If they don't apply AI in this way across, they're not going to survive. So the benefit will be, it'll be the vendor, it'll be the financial institution. Now, how they buy and all the challenges of, managing the vendors. Here's what's also going to happen. Let's talk about this for a moment. And I don't know if this quite answers your question. What about the vendors that don't respond to AI? And they're like, I've asked a lot of vendors, incumbents, and I'm like, well, show me your AI roadmap. They're not very strong. Big companies with huge installed bases. That's also, I think this will disintermediate some of them. But I want to also, one other angle, and I actually just blogged about this. It's coming out today.
All right.
Do you know that about half the vendors I talk to don't even bother selling to banks and financial institutions because they're too hard? They just go straight to the fintechs. They sell in weeks, they install in weeks instead of months and years. And with AI, that's a big deal because they can, think of a credit union trying to do that or a bank. They don't buy quickly. They're just not good at it. So that's something else. When you talk about what has to change, we got to put all this together. The astute banker 20 years ago got digital. It was internet, and then none of us saw mobile coming, but it became digital. There's a lot of really good financial institutions, and they're good at managing their vendors, and this is going to take a collaborative effort. And who really benefits? I think the best vendors are going to win. Again, we're going to see it culling, but is Fiserv going to die? They'll just start buying all the successful AI companies, I mean, the third wave, I want to talk about this. First wave was information technology, data processing being applied to, long time ago, semantics, the old cores. Then digital came along and self-service. That was the second wave. We used to call it the new hub theory. It was the second thing. And now AI is the second information technology, mega wave. And again, it's 10 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, wow, we as an industry, now, are all these people fired? No, they're repurposed to do other things. And, what we're learning from these case studies, it's a good point. People aren't firing people, but they're growing without hiring people. That's a different thing, right? And I think that's important too. So back to your question, I don't care about those darn vendors. As long as they do their case studies right and they give me data and they're live in production, then I love all vendors.
I just real quick, man, I just wanted to thank you for being a little challenging to the banker guys. I think we're not afraid to challenge the bankers, but a lot of what you see there, no, in a good way. You see a lot of people that are, kind of too nice. Like the banker's my customer and the customer's always right. And it's like, that's not very helpful. And then you see the other ones that are like, bankers are dumb. You're all going to die. And it's like, that's rude. You're an asshole. And so I think I really like the constructive, and we've talked on this topic before too, that, man, putting a vendor through an RFP is, maybe a 6-figure cost for a sales cycle, honestly, by the time you get done with all the travel and everything, right? And you're going to send it to 5 or 6 folks. you're rising, if not your own costs, as a collective industry, we are increasing the time and the cost. And those are the two things that we need to decrease. So I really love what you're saying there of not falling into that age old trap. And I really appreciate what you're doing. You're out front of all of us, pulling all this together and doing the research and then just freely sharing it with everybody to help drive down that cost and that time to market for the industry, man. That's good shit. I appreciate it.
Man, I'll tell you what, when you guys, if you sit back from my side, I'm over here eating popcorn, man. You're going, this is so cool. Because what we're really talking about is efficiency at a scale that we haven't been able to do, right? We can't scale efficiency, man. We can cut overhead, or we can cut, we can lower our building and fixed assets, or we can, cut our number of people. That sure makes our assets per employee look better, right? And so there's all kinds of crazy things that we get to do. But when we sit down and say we're inefficient at process itself, or purchasing, or accessing information, we're just really shitty at that. We're not very good at that. But nobody ever thinks about it because, you know what? The sleepy bankers will tell you this one. It's the way we've always done it. Man, that is the opposite of where the world's going and what AI is. If there's an enlightening moment here for everybody, by God, it is this. It's the way we've always done it. It needs to leave your vocabulary. And I think, Rob, your mind, I love your mind because you're actually going through here documenting information and asking questions in a way that are invoking either, oh shit, we're not really doing anything. And I had to say it out loud, or we are. And let me tell you all about it, right? That's right. Which allows you to actually document more. But to Tanner's point, which is beautiful, we have a broken system of thinking and a broken system of process that will not even allow us to access the victory. We can't even touch the victory that we could achieve because we have done it this way for so long. We have increased the time and the cost to get to a decision. And what AI can do for us is help us get to decisions faster and cheaper. Now,
and
at that time and that cost, when you put it all together, it really just sits down and says, we're eating our own young. We need to not do that no more. Because
Rob said
we have done is we've stopped the ability to access innovation. So other people say, hey, man, we don't have to worry about regulations. We can go, we're in innovation. We might wreck the damn ship, but we're going to go see how fast you go around the corner. Innovation is awesome. We can no longer do it because our process is so bad and so expensive. We can't use innovation. Okay, so if we want to have innovation, we have to change the way we go about it so we can do it faster. And if we do it faster, it's cheaper. But how do we go about that and make the right decisions? That's what you guys
do. Yeah, that decision-making overhead is ridiculous. And if you look again at the model, when that tech vendor sells to a fintech, they don't go through that. There's no costs. They get down to business. They see results. Now, look, we have inherent incumbent problems and challenges like a legacy architecture. A fintech does not. We have approval processes from a regulatory perspective. And in many cases, the fintechs don't. I could keep going, right? But financial institutions have bought quickly before. They can do it. In emergency situations, in fact, I would say there's no one better than a financial institution at solving an IT problem real quickly, because it's their life business, right?
You guys, y'all have seen this, right? It's like we can't get our online mobile going.
Well, but then you read the stories of, the CSI data center going down once, and Jack Henry, flying in servers on their own dime, and stuff like that. Just whatever it takes, the industry can do this. But I just want to see it happen. I was excited about digital, but I was young and I just figured, I was digital. This time it's like, whoa, like this is, with digital, we didn't transform, we transformed self-service, everything outside of the organization. We didn't quite, you even said it, we didn't quite touch the inside, This is both. By the way, interesting stat. 60% of the case studies are employee facing, 40% customer facing.
Ah, interesting.
And that's growing. The employee side is growing and growing because you can imagine there's so many more applications of AI inside than there is outside, right? But to my point, right, digital banking can only go so far, right, Tanner? We didn't go in and say, let's redo the mortgage process. We're like, all right, can you hook us up to whatever the heck? Do you have an interface, you know? I mean, let's start there, you know? Anyway, now it's going to be cool. Now, I do have a question. I want to plant this seed. How are we going to measure these productivity gains? What is in your data, what's a healthy organization that's embracing AI? What's going to start popping in terms of those metrics? You know, we know it's productivity, efficiency, profitability. I want to
just kind of go back to,
and I'm working on that definition.
But the old metrics would be that you're looking at, it's kind of like, what's the most expensive thing in your life? And it's like, well, I'm married, so there you got that, right? And on a bank, it's going to be, your number of employees, number of branches, and your building and fixed assets, right? That's where the lion's share. After that, the next best thing that you're going to do is going to be technology. So efficiency ratio, you can measure the best on technology, and overhead on people and fixed assets. So those might not be the best way, but it's the way that everybody's going to start.
Go different ways. So Rob, we've got this is clever. I love this shit. We've got all the product data, right? So we could look in, let's say, the LOS space, maybe it's consumer or mortgage or auto, and then we could look at the products and the vendors in there, and we can tie that back to the call report metric. Let's say that's loan growth, et cetera. And if you find an AI product that is a lending based thing, right, at a specific vendor, we just tie the call report to the vendor data, and we can back into at least something that's a really nice sniff test, right? But it's a tactical one, not organizational. To your part, we look at it almost like a department or a function. That's a cool way to do it.
Here's the other thing that when I wrote this down when he said it, if you got 60% employee facing, let's say that we come up with something using AI that just cuts the hell out of all the time we spend on check fraud or some, double or,
dupe detection
bullshit. And I mean, it's just like, my God, the hours that are spent on these kind of things. And he said, hey, they're free to go move about the cabin. Well, what did they do with that free time? And I'll bet you $1, you'd probably recognize that in the long run as income.
Good call.
Yeah. A couple of things. We should continue this dialogue.
I'm telling you what, we're going to kidnap your ass. We're going to go to Mars and hang out for a while and figure it out.
And I want to create an index of the banks and the credit unions that are doing AI better. And I want to watch how they outperform their competitors.
You got a partner, man. I'm in. I'll help you.
Yeah, we can do
Number
this.
2, people are going to have to lose money to make money here. This is unfortunately just like digital banking. We've introduced more expense. So this is a discussion I'm having. They like, hey, this is great, Rob. You came up with 47 projects, and then you went to those vendors, and there's a budget, and we put together a budget, and it's $819 million to implement every. It's like I can't do that. It's like, you're going to save money. Eventually, you will save. So we are facing a, chicken and egg thing, because this is going to require a little bit of investment to get those kinds of returns.
But this time will be different. So when we get these new PC things, don't worry, you're going to have to work half as much. And first thing I'm going to do when I retire is turn off email and throw my phone in the lake. So yeah, we've really become efficient, right? But no, man, this is good stuff. I really like it. And I do believe you're right. You got to spend money to actually realize these things, because nobody's going to just fairy tale them right into your pocket. And back to the sleepy banker thing, man, get off your ass, learn something, figure some things out here. Don't wait for somebody to walk up and hand it to you, because there are predators out there now. You didn't have anything to worry about your whole life except a credit union. And I'm so tired of people thinking the credit unions are the problem. I'm not saying that it's not a problem, but man, you've got major sharks in the water right now. That was a perch biting your foot. We got a 20-footer out there with big teeth.
Hey, Rob, I would give tell everybody where to find you, your newsletter, all that, and then
Yes.
a couple of minutes, man. Final thoughts. Anything else that's on
Are
your
we
mind?
already at final thoughts? Come on.
Sorry,
Man.
I know your time flies when you're having fun.
All
We're
I
gonna do 3
asked,
parts.
I have the clever monetization strategy that you mentioned, which is all the content's for free. If you want access to case studies, just go to searchingforai.com. And if you don't see what you want me to mine the data. As I said, 200 case studies. You want to go in and say, give me the lending AI in Poland, and I want to know the vendors. I can do that. I can do this. Anyway, so searching for AI, go sign up for the news feed. This is right now a not-for-profit enterprise. So I'm just getting the data out there. It's fun to share. Yeah, the last thoughts are to the executives in the business. If you're a financial institution, put your plan together, be aggressive, get out there. You got to start, and a lot are. So that's, not saying that everybody is not, but it's just like before with digital, with internet, with mobile, blah, blah, blah. But you got to go a lot faster. And then to the vendors, let's enable these people to be successful. Stay patient, continue to sell to them. Don't just sell to the fintechs. And then have aggressive roadmaps, make it easy to buy these things, and make it easy to implement. And it's a collective, right? I think together we can figure this out. And that's the call to action, I think, is, let's go save community financial institutions,
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you so much. And I really wanted to say just generally, thank you for what you're doing with all this. I know, you're having a little downtime and fun and thinking about looking for the next gig, but in between, Daddy told me he's getting Airbnbs like a month at a time and just having a ball, right? But it shows a lot, Rob, that this is still a passion project and you're pumping all this out for free and kind of being a helper, even while you're just hanging out for a little while and looking around and trying to figure out what you're going to do. I love that and I appreciate that. And I think everybody should. So hats off to you.
Can I have a closing thought today?
Please.
Okay. I remember when Tanner was so stupid he didn't even know how to go to the bathroom. And
Yeah.
And you and Tom Shin brought him back to me so much smarter. I mean, look at him, and everybody and I know is like, man, he's the smartest guy in the world. He knows all this stuff. And I'm like, it's because of Rob and Tom and what you guys did. And as a dad, I'd like to say thank you.
I'm humbled. Really.
Well, I love you both, man. Thanks for joining my television show. This was a great time.
Okay.
All right, guys. I'll see y'all next time.